Welcome back, players and collectors, to my channel, Ren's Collectibles. And boy, do we got some good news and bad news for Lorcana today. Actually happened a couple days ago, but we're going to be discussing it today, and that is none other than the news of the DLC in Toronto. But it's both good and bad, which is kind of a weird thing to say. But let's break it down, let's talk about it, and most importantly, I want to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions down in the comments section below. So make sure you go there and let me know what you think about the topic here. But we're going to be discussing the Toronto DLC, and if you guys don't know what that is, those are the Disney Lorcana challenges, and in particular, the one we're going to be talking about is the next one, which is going to be in Toronto in August. I guess it's not the next one. The next one is in Fort Worth, but the next one that just went up for sale that we're talking about is Toronto. But there's been some good news and bad news surrounding it. And like I said, they both kind of encompass the same thing here, and that is it sold out so fast, which is a great sign because it shows that the game is growing rapidly. It shows that people are wanting to come play the game. And it's also bad because there's lots of people who were left out into the dust. I am one of those people, but I'm not really that upset. I did want to really go, but it's kind of fascinating to see how wild things went. So let's take it back to Friday, where 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the tickets went on sale for the DLC Toronto. And there was a lot of buzz about it. There's a lot of people already discussing it. We've already had Lorcana in Ravensburger, I should say, who has boosted attendance numbers already for a lot of these tournaments, which was, I want to say, I think it was originally supposed to be like 500 or 600 people, and then they boosted it to the 1,024, allegedly. That's the number we've been kind of shown so far. I don't think there's been an actual confirmed number of competitors or attendees, but the number that we've been seeing for, you know, the venue space and all that is 1,024. So the tickets went on sale at 8 p.m. and by about 8:02 p.m. they were gone. They were all gone. But it wasn't even that they lasted 2 minutes. I believe they lasted a whole lot less than that. I personally, from my experience, think they went out of stock. They sold out for their tickets within like the first 30 seconds. There was plenty of people who got on to try and get tickets. Obviously, way more than 1,000 people were trying to get tickets to either compete or just attend, and it was nearly impossible for a lot of us. Now, there's a lot of people, obviously, that had good success. There's going to be quite a few people going, and honestly, it's a lot of the big competitors, the ones who went to Atlanta and Chicago, who are also now going to be going to Toronto, and it's probably good in some aspect that the really high level competitors are going, because you want to see that level of competition. But it sucks for those of us who didn't get to the tickets to go, because we're going to be watching from home. You know, I couldn't even get attendee tickets, which kind of sucks. But again, you got to take a little bit of the good with the bad. These are what I would consider growing pains for Lorcana, as Lorcana just passed its first year as a TCG, like actually available and, you know, things happening. And this is just one of the growing pains, you know? I think it has a lot more upside than downside to it, even though I know a lot of us are a little bit upset about it. But Toronto sold out so fast, incredibly fast. And a lot of people took to Twitter to let people know, and Reddit and Instagram and all these other places, you know, to make it known their displeasure. But I would just say, you know, you guys got to understand that this is the first year that Lorcana is having tournaments, and Ravensburger's doing this, and, you know, these are all experiences they will have to grow on and learn from in order to expand the game. And you know, I think they have the attendance, they have the competitors, they have people that want to show up and support the events, play the games and stuff. They have the people, I don't think they necessarily thought they were going to have as many competitors and as many people trying to play the game initially. They definitely have the people, the fans, the player base. What they didn't have, and what I think a lot of people kind of failed to understand, is a lot of these challenges, the venues have been booked for months, if not over a year at this point. And you got to think a lot of these venues have capped spaces. They have fire safety spaces. So the place in Toronto, which I believe is a Sheraton hotel, they're going to be using like some kind of ballroom, which is typical. That's what Pokemon does in a lot of places as well. They have a capacity. They have a person limit to how many people can be, you know, in a building or in a certain room at any given moment for fire safety hazards. And that limit cannot be increased unless you're increasing the size of the room, which just is not going to happen. So even though there's been some large increases in demand for space and for people to get in and play and compete at these tournaments, you have to understand that Ravensburger has likely already reserved and made arrangements for all these places, for all these different locations that they've announced the tournaments for. I don't think they would announce tournaments for all these places: Chicago, Atlanta, Fort Worth, Toronto, and even all the ones overseas. I don't think they would announce that they're going to be doing these tournaments in those locations without having all of the details finalized. So that being said, all this was planned and prepped way far in advance. I don't think they could increase the capacity limits because they've already stated after Atlanta they needed to increase limits to all that. And they did their due diligence. They increased them for Chicago. They increased it for Dallas, Fort Worth. I believe for every tournament here on out that's on the schedule for 2024, they've pretty much maxed out capacity that they could do. So all this shows is that the demand for the game is growing a lot faster than they expected, which is fantastic. That's a place that you want to be in as a game developer, a company. You want to know that your game is excelling faster than you were expecting it to, versus not enough or not up to par what you expected. You know, that would be the worst alternative in my opinion. But just know that for next year, they're likely going to increase the capacity limits for everything. They're going to try to book places that have maybe 2,000 person limits. And truly, I believe that Lorcana could fill out 2,000 person attendance sheets for every location that they're going to. At least in the United States. I am not sure at this point how many people have attended the ones over in Europe. I'm sure there's a large fan base for them over in Europe as well, so it could be the same scenario there. But at least here in the United States, or North America really, because Toronto is a growing, glowing case of this happening, the fan base is there. They're showing up. They're wanting to do it. Again, this whole process selling out in less than 2 minutes is mind-blowing. Pokemon doesn't even do that. I can't really speak on the other TCGs because I don't follow them competitively, but even Pokemon for for Indianapolis, tickets were available for a good chunk of time, at least a week or two after they went live for people to buy and attend. And that one still sold out and eventually, and there was well over 2,000 players at that tournament. I think Lorcana's getting to that point fast, rapidly. And it's all because the game is fun, and Ravensburger up to this point has shown that they're a very capable and great company to do that. So, there's been a lot of faith in them as a company and the game itself, Lorcana. But like I said, it's some good news with it. There's some bad news with it. But overall, I think it's a projection of hope and success for Lorcana, setting us as the fans and players, as well as the company Ravensburger, up for success in 2025. I would very much like to see the capacity limits for all of next season's DLCs doubled. I mean, honestly, at least. I think the player base is there. And there's a lot of people coming in from other TCGs that are joining in Lorcana that have helped propel the game to where it is. So, but if that's not for enough evidence that, you know, Lorcana is expanding and growing at a very successful, rapid pace. There was just a $10,000 tournament for Lorcana that was live streamed. I mean, hundreds of people attended. I want to say even on the live stream, like the actual live stream, there was a few hundred people watching. So it's growing. It's getting bigger. DLCs are just the tip of the iceberg, I think, for competitive play. I'm very excited to see what 2025 has. Let me just say it that way. I think the game is going to be big. I think it will join the top 3 or the big 3 next year in capacity and in overall terms of people being into the gameplay and the game in general, you know? So very excited to see that. But again, I want to know what you guys all have to think and say down below about the DLC. It's just a small snippet of news from the Lorcana world. Fort Worth, I believe it was the same thing. I think it sold out in minutes. Las Vegas, I think, is the next one in North America. I am very much looking forward to seeing how that goes, because I will likely try my best again to go to that one if I can. And that one will be a little bit easier. It's in the United States, but you know, it'll be a nice little trip for myself and my family. So maybe we can make our way out that way. But you guys let me know down below what your thoughts and opinions are. If you haven't yet, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for all of your Lorcana news and content. I love Lorcana. I'm getting into it heavily, and I can't wait to make more content and videos for you guys. That's all I have time for today. We'll see you in the next episode.